Well, I'm going to ask you all to do something which I never do. I never do this on this channel. Other channels do. I never do. But I'm going to ask you, if you've been here, if you come here now and again and you sort of don't mind the videos and you like the videos, I know there's people watching that aren't subscribed, because in the YouTube Studio app, you can see the sort of demographics that tells you all this. So if you can, I'm going to ask you just to press the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't hold you or tie you to anything. It's completely free, but to a little channel like me, it makes a massive, massive difference. Dave Allen, Fabio Wardley has invoked, would be the word, I don't know, invoked his rematch clause for Daniel Dubois. I seriously doubted whether he would, wasn't sure whether he would or not, wasn't even sure whether he'd box again, but we should know Fabio by now. Fabio is fighter through and through, and he wants to right some of the wrongs, I suppose, in terms of his performance. He said he made a lot of mistakes, and I suppose he'd like the opportunity to put them right. And I think we talked about in the post-fight, Fabio's never going to be found wanting for heart or balls or bravery or any of that. And although he's had the much talked about limited background and white collar and all that, I don't want to go over that again, but we know that I think Fabio's a better fighter than what he showed on that night. I think they'd looked at the fact that Daniel Dubois uses the wedge, which kind of only leaves the top of the head as a target with that right hand. So there are a lot of things he could have done. He neglected his jab. We know that. I talked about this, but there are a lot of things that I think that are well within Fabio Wardley's, array of abilities and skills that he can improve on. Certainly, he can employ his jab, use a better jab. He can use his usually very good shot selection, rather than just looking for that overhand right over the top, the one which Daniel Dubois caught onto pretty quickly, and it became null and void. So Fabio Wardley invokes the rematch clause. Do I want to see it again? On a scale of, 100 being the maximum, 50 being halfway. It's not a fight that I would call for and want. Will I watch it? Of course I will. As many of you will do as well. But nonetheless, it's going to happen. And I do think there are things Fabio Wardley can do. And although he is limited, I think there are things that Fabio can do and things that he can employ. And he's a far better fighter, far better boxer than he showed on that night anyway. This weekend, Filip Hrgovic against Dave Allen. We all love Dave Allen. I love Dave Allen. It's hard not to love Dave Allen. But it's just hard to get past Dave Allen's, and this is not, I don't say this disparagingly. Again, I never disrespect fighters, but Dave Allen is lazy, and I believe he's got a certain amount of almost a sparring partner's mentality in a way. And although he says he's in the best shape, he's got himself in really good shape. I saw him at the open workout, the public workout the other day, and he had a pair of shorts on, and his gut was still hanging over the shorts. So Dave Allen said for the Makhmudov fight, he said he trained really hard, but he didn't train with intensity. And there was a lot of shots of him in the gym during training sessions, circuit sparring pads and stuff like that. And he said, I trained hard, but I didn't train with intensity. And Dave is just not an intense kind of guy. You see that in his interviews, you see that in the way he is, the way he handles himself, the way he sort of presents himself. He's a very laid back guy and kind of looks to look any intensity from his personality. So when he says he's in the best shape of his life, I've no doubt he's in better shape than he was for the Makhmudov fight. But is he in the best shape of his life? No, I think the best shape, certainly aesthetically, the best shape I've ever seen Dave Allen in was, I think, for the Dillian White fight. And he looked really, he always says, I've got bad genetics, and just aesthetically, I've got bad genetics. No, because I thought, if I'm correct, I think it was the Dillian White fight, he looked good. He looked aesthetically good for that. So he'll be in better shape. I don't think really, well, no, actually, no. Dave's condition does let him down, but I think Dave's just sort of lack of intensity and kind of a lack of will to win it's been remarked that he's got a sparring partner's mentality, and it really is hard to argue with that. And certainly, he has been a fantastic sparring partner for all the top guys. But can he take it any further than that? Filip Hrgovic, you could say he's overlooking Dave Allen with a lot of the things he says and a lot of things he's done. Filip Hrgovic said the other day that he's about 70%, meaning that he hasn't really trained fully for it. Not fully, but he hasn't pushed himself to the level that you'd expect, say, if he was fighting, an elite guy. And that was him that said that he's about 70%. And you'd put, 70% is probably enough for Dave Allen, isn't it? Hrgovic, I made a video a long, long time ago talking about Filip Hrgovic and Zhilei Zhang. When everyone was talking about them, there were a lot of people saying that Filip Hrgovic was a complete fighter. And there are stories, and a lot of professionals and guys around the gym, they do say that in the gym he's fucking amazing. He's a fantastic gym fighter. And you do get fighters like that who look at fucking $1 million in world beaters in the gym, but can't transcend that into their in-ring competitive performances. With Filip Hrgovic, I've never looked at, like I said, I made a video about him and Zhang when everyone was saying they were, the two for the future. I never saw it. I always saw Zhang as being lazy and pretty one-dimensional. And Hrgovic, I just think, is devoid of the real set of skills and that spark which take you from being a world championship or a world level fighter to an elite level fighter. And I don't think Hrgovic is. Hrgovic boxes at the elite level, but Hrgovic hasn't got elite level skills and he hasn't got elite level attributes. He's got an elite level chin and elite level toughness. And really, that's really it for me. To me, with Hrgovic, from what you see competitively in fights, everything else is fairly average. I think his right hand, which he's very right hand happy, is very poor. There's a lot of arm punch about it. He doesn't throw it in a really good manner to get the most power out of that shot. I don't think he's a massive puncher because I don't think he punches well enough. And I mean by that, doesn't punch technically well enough to get any power out of it. So you look at this fight and you look, on the face of it, you're like, Filip Hrgovic versus Dave Allen. Do I think Filip Hrgovic has got more boxing ability than Dave Allen? Not really. Not really. Maybe in certain areas. But Hrgovic doesn't really use his feet. He doesn't really use a lot of head movements. You wouldn't say his defence is blinding. You wouldn't say he was a defensive master. And you wouldn't say he was really fantastic offensively. He's just very, very, very fucking tough. Probably the only man that could match Fabio Wardley in the tough stakes. On pure boxing ability, you look at Dave Allen, he knows all the tricks, he knows all the little things to do inside, he knows how to get them hooks right round the back of a guard and land the shots that, one fighter is defending against. He knows where to put them, knows where to shoot. He judges distance well. Yes, Dave Allen walks forward. That's his defence. Dave Allen always says, I'm a hard fighter to hit. And, I love Dave Allen, but I've never looked at him and thought he was hard to hit. Maybe hard to hit clean all of the time, but he's certainly not hard to hit. Name me a fight where Dave Allen didn't really get hit. He gets hit in all of them. So, but on just pure ability, shoot me down if you want. I don't think there's a massive gulf between them. There's a gulf between them in toughness, and there's a gulf between them in winning mentality. But for me, that's really where it ends. Is that closeness enough to make this a competitive fight? You wouldn't think so, would you? You really wouldn't think so. Dave says he's going to be there at the end of 10 rounds. Who knows? We don't know. I would love to see, Dave pull off like a seismic shock, but can I see it? Not really, in all honesty. And if we're going to use boxing logic, just the fact that Hrgovic has got way more to lose. Dave hasn't really got any real pressure on him. Dave is also talking about this fight like it could be his last. And for them reasons, for the fact that Hrgovic said in an interview that he's a winner, and he is a winner. What's he, one defeat? He is a winner. He's not for me. He's a fighter that can box at the elite level, but I don't think he's an elite level fighter. Does that make sense? So I pick Hrgovic maybe to outpoint Dave Allen. With Dave Allen giving it a go on the way. Dave Allen's thing is, because he is a walk forward fighter with not a great deal he uses head movement pretty well. He uses guards pretty well. He can roll and all that sort of stuff. But he is easy to hit, and because he walks forward in straight lines, that makes him even easier to hit. So I'd love to see Dave, have enough in the tank. He's always looked to me like when he does let his hands go, that's only going to be for a certain sort of there's going to be a burst rather than sustain, because he's never fucking fit enough to sustain it. So I think Dave will cause some problems, and I think Dave will land some shots, but I don't think Dave hits hard enough to trouble Hrgovic. Dave whacks, don't get me wrong, but there are levels to this, and Hrgovic has certainly got an elite level chin. So, no. Good luck, Dave Allen. I hope you put on a good show. I hope you have your moments in the fight. I hope you win. Of course I hope you win. I just can't see a world in where you pull that off. But as long as Dave puts in a good performance and gives us a good fight, which he says he's going to, so you have to pick Hrgovic. Anyway, I'll see you all soon.